I've been following your channel for a while now, and there's something I've been wanting to ask. Dating seems like a minefield since getting my cochlear implants, and it's been nearly 6 years, and I still haven't worked up the courage to put myself out there. There's this nagging worry that when women notice my cochlear implants, they'll see complications rather than me. And oddly enough, when those dating nerves kick in, my ability to follow conversations, it seems to go downhill fast, and I'm not getting any younger, and I do hope to find someone to build a family with someday. Any advice from your experience? Now, this thoughtful message landed in my inbox last month from a viewer, and it really struck a chord with me. Dating can be challenging for anyone, but navigating the dating scene with cochlear implants, it really adds another layer of complexity. You know what's interesting? In my experience, being upfront about my cochlear implant has actually become one of my best conversation starters. And on a recent first date, mentioning it led to a fascinating discussion about technology and accessibility that completely broke the ice. And what could have been awkward became the highlight of our evening. So today I'm sharing 7 practical secrets that help me build meaningful connections despite the communication barriers that sometimes come with cochlear implants. Now, these aren't just my own experiences. I've also gathered insights from our incredible cochlear implant community. While dating someone else with hearing loss might seem easier because of shared understanding, these tips that I'm giving you work for dating anyone, hearing or not. And before we dive in, if you haven't already, I'd be chuffed if you could like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us reach more people in the hearing loss community and beyond. So right then, let's get into these dating secrets, shall we? My first tip is to be upfront and honest, and we are kicking off here with something straightforward but essential. So being upfront about your cochlear implant early on, it creates a foundation of honesty from the start. And I remember meeting Liz for our first coffee date, and as we settled at our table, I casually mentioned, just so you know, I've got a cochlear implant. So if I occasionally ask you to repeat something, that's why. And her response, it was really genuine curiosity. And then a story about her uncle, who also has hearing loss. That 5-minute exchange, it just broke the ice beautifully. And now I have a friend in our community who takes this approach even further. He mentions in his dating profile that telephone conversations aren't his strong suit, and he prefers quieter environments for first meetings. As he explained to me, being transparent from the beginning, it means the people who message me have already accepted that that's part of me. So what he's saying is it's like having a built-in compatibility filter. Most people are actually quite fascinated by cochlear implants, and it becomes a brilliant conversation starter, really. So the right person will really appreciate your honesty and be keen to understand more. My second tip is to choose your date venues wisely. So background noise can be a proper nightmare with cochlear implants. But you could go to that trendy restaurant with music blaring and conversations echoing. Perhaps not the best choice for a first date. And I learned this lesson the hard way after a disastrous date at a new underground jazz club in town, and I couldn't hear a word. Ended up nodding along to what I later discovered was a story about her grandfather's funeral. So it wasn't my finest moment. Now, I suggest quieter cafes, parks, or activities where communication is easier, and one of my favourite first date spots is a little garden cafe near me. It's peaceful enough to hear clearly, but lively enough to avoid awkward silences. Tip 3 is to position yourself strategically. This might sound a bit tactical, but where you sit or stand can make all the difference. So if you've got one implant, try to position your good side towards your date. In restaurants, I always request a corner table or one against the wall. And last month at the Olive Tree, I specifically asked for the quiet corner booth, explaining briefly to my date that it helps with hearing. Not only did she appreciate my directness, but she also started automatically choosing seats that would work better for me on future dates. Also, good lighting is really important for lip reading support, and I once had a date in a romantically dim restaurant and spent half the evening nodding and smiling while understanding about 10% of what was said. Tip 4 is to set clear communication boundaries. And one of the most valuable lessons I've learned from others in the Cochlear Implant community is how to reframe the way we think about our communication needs. And instead of seeing them as special requests or accommodations, it's better to treat them as personal preferences or boundaries, just like anyone else might have in a relationship. So a woman I know with bilateral implants explained it perfectly to me. She said, I used to feel bad about asking people to face me when speaking or to repeat themselves, but now I simply say, this is what works best for me. It's no different from someone saying they prefer texting over phone calls or needing a bit of personal space. What she taught me was eye-opening. If someone gets frustrated or dismissive about making small adjustments to how they communicate with me, it's a clear sign they might not be the right person for me. But it's not about being demanding, it's about finding someone who naturally respects and values your needs. In my own dating life, I've started being upfront about what helps me communicate best. For example, I'll say, I hear much better when I can see your face, so let's sit somewhere with good lighting, or speaking clearly works better for me than speaking loudly. These are simple, straightforward statements that set expectations early on. And what I've found is that people who respond positively to these requests are often more empathetic and understanding in general. And those who don't, well, they just show me that they are probably not the right match. And that's okay. Setting these boundaries has made my dating experiences much more comfortable and enjoyable. Tip 5 is to focus on your whole self and not just your cochlear implants. And I used to worry that my cochlear implants were the first thing people noticed about me, and this anxiety made me overly focused on this one aspect of myself rather than the full package I bring to a relationship. And a mentor in the cochlear implant community, they helped me see this differently. Remember, she said to me over coffee, your dating profile doesn't say cochlear implant seeking relationship with understanding human. You are bringing your personality, your interests, your values and dreams to the table. Your hearing technology is just one small piece of the puzzle. And this perspective shift was liberating. I stopped hiding aspects of my hearing journey, but I also stopped making it the centerpiece of every interaction. Dating became about discovering compatibility across all dimensions of who we are and not just how we communicate. Tip 6 is to embrace technology as your backup. And your cochlear implant is brilliant technology, but sometimes it just needs a bit of backup. And don't hesitate to use those assistive devices or tools that make communication easier. They are there to help you. For example, I sometimes use my phone's speech to text app in particularly noisy environments like a crowded cafe or busy street. And it's a simple tool, but it can make a huge difference in understanding what's being said. Many restaurants, cinemas, and public venues, they also offer hearing loops or other accessibility options. And it's always worth checking ahead of time to see what's available. What I've noticed is that people are often really curious about how cochlear implants and assistive technology work. And one day I casually mentioned how I can stream music directly to my processor, and it sparked a great conversation about how far technology has come. It's a great way to turn what might feel like a challenge into an opportunity to connect and share something unique about yourself. And by embracing the technology that supports you, you are not only making communication easier, but also showing that confidence in how you navigate the world. And that's always really attractive. Last, but definitely not least, is to keep your sense of humour. And misunderstandings will happen, and they can actually be quite funny. I once thought my date had said she loved baking when she'd actually said she loved hiking, and I spent about 5 minutes enthusiastically discussing sourdough starters and my favourite cake recipes before we realised the mix-up. An older gentleman in our community shared with me how laughter has been his secret weapon in 30 years of marriage with progressive hearing loss. When miscommunications happen, he told me, we could get frustrated or we could get a good story to tell at dinner parties, and we usually choose the latter. Personally, I found that people who can laugh alongside you when communication goes sideways are often the ones worth keeping around. And that lightness of spirit makes navigating the hearing world together just much more enjoyable. Overall, to the viewer who sent me that question and to anyone else feeling hesitant about dating with cochlear implants, I want you to know that your implants don't define your dateability. They're just one part of your story. And yes, there will be people who don't understand or are willing to make those small accommodations. But in my experience, those aren't the people you'd want to build a life with anyway. As a long-time CI user from our community recently reflected, being open about my hearing from day one has turned out to be the best filtering system. The people who stick around are exactly the kind of patient, empathetic folks I want in my life anyway. So it's clear that the right person will see your hearing journey as something that's made you more resilient, more empathetic, and more attentive. All qualities that make for a fantastic partner. Dating with cochlear implants might have its challenges, but it also offers unique opportunities for deeper, more intentional communication. And these 7 secrets have helped me and others in our community navigate the dating world with confidence, and I hope they'll do the same for you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What has your dating experience been like with cochlear implants? And do you have any funny misunderstanding stories or additional tips that worked for you? Everyone's journey is different, and your insights could really help others in our community. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe subscribe to the channel. It really helps more people find this content who might benefit from it. And if there are other cochlear implant topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, let me know that too. And until next time, happy dating.